All right, now to do some work with animating masks. So we've talked about how masks are created, what parameters we have to animate, and now we're going to talk about actually animating some of those masks. So here we go. I'm going to start with creating just a simple mask. Maybe we'll have a mask grow from the corner or wipe. Wow, derp. Let's get rid of that guy. You don't want that. Note to self, remember to select your layer first before you try to draw a mask, otherwise it will create a shape. So that's no good. So let's say we're going to do a mask wipe left to right. So we are going to scale this guy up. So we'll select the arrow tool and maybe just move this guy completely to the left. And we're gonna kind of do an actual wipe transition kind of thing. Simple, easy, and a good place to start. So I started by drawing this guy completely out, and we're actually going to drag him. So I'm going to deselect, then I'm going to select that one, that point. I'm going to hold shift, I'm going to select that point so that I have these two points to drag out. And I'm going to start on my endpoint because the idea is that we're going to make this thing animate from left all the way to right. So it's easier, rather than starting with this thing as a straight line and trying to grab those points in there, it's easier to start completely open and then kind of animate in reverse, really. So I'm going to set that as it is, and I'm going to drill down so I can see my properties, get those ready. And then I'm going to animate out, let's just say 30 frames, so that would be 1 second. And I'm going to set a keyframe for my mask path. That's these dots here. I've got 4 of them. My mask path is going to include those. Then I'm going to step back at 0, 0, and I'm going to select those same 2 points that I animated earlier, holding shift to select more than one. I'm going to click in the gray to deselect it completely, right? So if you're having trouble selecting, when you select your mask, it's going to select all points. That's why you want to click in the gray, and it'll drop them all. Then you can select which points you want to, showing the one by one. So if they're solid like this one, that means it's selected. If it's hollow like that one, it means it's not. So you can tell here that I've got these 2 selected. So now I'm going to grab them, and I'm going to move it all the way to the left. Since I had my stopwatch clicked, means I'm animating, and since I moved my time indicator back to 0, since I created it fully open at 30, fully closed at 0, remember I animated in reverse. So now I'm going to deselect that layer, and when I hit spacebar to animate, you can see that it animates from left to right somewhat rigidly, but it creates a wipe effect. Maybe I could right click on that keyframe using keyframe interpolation. Maybe I'd do easy ease in so it's a little bit slower, kind of smooth towards the end. Yeah, it's a little bit better. So this is animating your mask path in its most basic form. We could also animate things like feathering. So I'm going to do something real quick, a little cheat of mine to show some different options. I'm going to hit Command D. This duplicates my background layer because what I want to do is I want to save this background layer as my wipe example. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to hit Enter, call it wipe, and that way I have my mask created and the animation still included on this next one I made. So I made a duplicate. That way I have this as kind of my source untouched file. So when I fool with stuff, I could always go back to that background wipe. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn off mask path so my mask stays kind of how it was. Right? So I've still got this other one here. So if I turn on that background wipe layer, you can see that still works. So I've just duplicated that layer so I could create another variation, just kind of as a testing ground, right? So I'm going to select mask 1 again, and let's animate some other things. So let's animate our mask opacity. So I'm going to start with it being completely hidden, go out to 30 frames, change this to 100, and you can see that that creates a nice fade in for our mask. Pretty cool, but not overly impressive. So again, if I wanted to press enter here, while that's selected, I could call this background fade. And Command D, create a new one, and let's call this one, we're going to do a expansion test here. So we're going to turn off fade, and we're going to open this one up by clicking on the arrow, clicking down to see the mask, clicking down to see the properties. I'm just going to turn off opacity completely, right? So we're back to normal. And then I'm going to set a keyframe for expansion, because that one looked pretty cool. So over 30 frames, let's say we expand this. Let's say it's already expanded as far as we want. So we're going to create a keyframe there. Then we're going to press the back arrow down here to go back to that first keyframe. Right? So we're animating in reverse again. And we're going to actually zoom this all the way down to -257, meaning that the expansion has contracted all the way from the border all the way to the center so far that it's non-existent. What this creates is that kind of zoom out, kind of iris effect almost, to where it reveals what's inside the mask over time from the center. So that's pretty cool. If we wanted to, we could add another keyframe out here that extends that mask even further. So we have the mask expanding from one point in the screen all the way over to reveal. So that one's kind of cool. Do Command D one more time, and we'll call this one feather, so we can see how that animates. Drag this one down. Actually, another way is you can hit U. The U key will show all currently applied keyframes, so that's a nice way to see these masks. We've got a second one in there. So let's turn off mask expansion. I'm going to double click that again so I can get all my parameters, and we're going to do mask feather. So I've created a keyframe. I'm going to drag it to 30 so this happens over a second. I'm going to go to 0 and I'm going to create another keyframe. And let's just say, oops, we need to turn our mask expansion back down to 0 so we have our frame there. And let's say we're going to feather this. Well, let's just see how it looks. Let's feather it. Let's say we start feathering it at 500. And this might not be a super clean effect, but you can see over time it's kind of interesting. It kind of animates into a sharper focus. Could be useful, or a little bit visually different. Might work out for you. But that's animating the feather over time. So it kind of creates a softer fade around the edges of that mask. You can see it animating here. So those are the four main parameters that animate over time with masks. And in the next clip, we're going to talk a little bit more about animating based on lines that are created from a mask. So that's it for now.